Today will be a lecture on King James of England. King James was born June 19th, 1566. He died April 6th of 1625 at the age of 58 years old. He became King of England March 24th, 1603. During King James' life period, King James had sexual relationships that are documented with three men: Esme Stewart, Robert Carr, and George Villiers. There probably were more relationships that he was involved in, but these are three that are documented from letters that were written directly from King James himself. In one document with the relationship with Esme Stewart, in that document, King James said that they were involved in a relationship when they were underage minors, that Esme Stewart was his first love. Then we have another letter that's wrote directly from King James himself about Robert Carr and their relationship. The letter states that King James missed him lying with him in his chambers. King James would also kiss the men that he was involved in relationships with in public, which offended the church. But the church was afraid to speak up because in fear of what might happen to them if they had angered the king. King James requested a version of the Bible to be written in the English language, in the English translation. So they started to make a new translation of the Bible for the church in England in 1604. It was completed by 1611. And they had named that version of the Bible the King James Version because it was under King James' request to make the KJV version of the Bible. Now, you have a shipment of Englishmen who had left in a ship which was sailed from London in 1606 and crossed the Atlantic Ocean. It made two stops on the way to the New World. It stopped first on the islands off the shores and coast of West Africa. Then from there, the ship sailed to the Caribbean. And from the Caribbean, they had reached Virginia in April of 1607. It was two settlements that they had arrived in first in Virginia that they did not find convenient to set their first settlements in towns. And then in May, they had settled in Jamestown. The reason they chose Jamestown to settle because it was next to the James River, and they had found that more convenient for their ships. Altogether, it was 104 people who had arrived in Jamestown, Virginia. Within the first 9 months, 39 had perished from sicknesses, disease, and famine. Okay, a shipment of 100 more Europeans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1608. An epidemic started where they started dying of starvation in 1609. The starvation was so bad because the Native Americans, the Powhatans was the name of that tribe, had placed the English settlers under siege in Jamestown, Virginia, where they died from disease and from starvation. The documents state that they had to eat the horse and also the dog when the starvation period first started. And eventually they had to eat the dead, those who had died inside Jamestown, Virginia, where they were under siege. They started digging up the bodies of those that had perished and even eat those bodies. The documents state that when an Englishman hurts himself, as in gets a cut or an injury, that they would lick the blood around the injury for the nourishment in order to survive. So they finally had to come out and work a deal with the Native Americans. So they sent out John Roth. John Roth went to talk to the chief of the Powhatans and worked the deal. The Powhatans had given their new pilgrim arrivals corn for food because they were dying of starvation, and worked a peace treaty with them. John Ruth, actually John Roth, he had married Pocahontas. Pocahontas was the daughter of the chief of the Powhatans. When he married Pocahontas, Pocahontas was only 13 years old. Pocahontas died in London in 1617. Her father, which was the chief, died in 1618. The first African slaves arrived in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619 from a ship that was sailing on its way to Mexico that they had robbed and hijacked. They transferred the ship back to Jamestown, Virginia, and unloaded the 20 African slaves. Jamestown, Virginia was also where the first Christian church was established. Okay, from 1607 to 1624, 6,000 European settlers had arrived in the New World, and only 3,400 had survived. Jamestown, Virginia was later divided into 8 counties.